Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the common sense perspective here. So let me see here. Here's my channel here. Something that I've been trying to do and try to start up doing in terms of having a third channel, which I've had, but I just had it kind of sitting around. And I wanted to make good use of it. So the thing about what I wanted to do here is I wanted to bring into here, just topical stuff and stuff that whatever's headlining out there in the world and what captures my attention, and I wanted to speak about my opinion on it in a common sense perspective. And man, common sense ain't so common, right? And so it might sound politically spun, but I'm really nonpartisan. I mean, I'm not Republican, I'm not Democrat, I'm not liberal, I'm not anything, right? I'm just me and giving you what I think about things, right? And so, you see things that go on all the time, and you just want to. I just want to just kind of voice my thoughts on it, and my whole thing is about stand up for common sense, right? And that's truly what it is: stand up for common sense. Because like shit, when you see stupid things, you're just like, wow, that is stupid. And so with that, I was just kind of perusing through things, and I came across a video yesterday that really caught my attention, right? And so here's Gavin Newsom, right, covering California. And what caught my attention was they were speaking about the California budget, right, and all the different cuts they got to do because they're like in this deficit, right, of, depending on who you speak to, right, they're in a $40 billion, they're in a $70 billion deficit depending on whichever agency is reporting it, right? And it's funny because it doesn't matter. We're in a deficit, right? And when you look at history, they've always had good budgets, balanced budgets, and things like that. And with that, they had a huge surplus back in 2021 during COVID times because of the COVID money from the federal government, and I guess they were saying capital gains on taxes and stuff before. There was just a big, huge surplus. So, like a bunch of dummies they are in California politics, what did they do? Instead of maybe tucking it away for a rainy day, maybe this huge surplus was just a one time thing. They added it to the budget as if now we have more money to spend. Okay, that's fine for that year, but the thought, I guess, was, well, we're still going to be making this sort of money revenue every year. And it's like, really? So you're assuming that, but don't know if that for a fact. So you're just going to go ahead and just incorporate it into the budget and continue to spend like there's no tomorrow, and that because we're going to make it back anyways, it's all good. Well, then guess what happens, right? Now you're in a deficit. And not only that, they're forecasting a deficit for upcoming years. So when they're trying to pass shit this year, right, they know that people weren't going to vote for new taxes and all this other stuff or pass proposed programs because people were going to look at it and be like, no, we're not voting for that. So what do? They put it in the form of bonds, right? Bonds is borrowing money and kind of, in a sense, mortgaging the future that the revenues and all that will help, will be back, and then it'll help pay down the bonds. It's like getting a loan, right? And so they passed the bonds, but barely, right? Because it still needs to go up for a vote, right? And it barely passed. Like, it was close to 50-50, but barely passed. And so, with all that, there's lots of cuts that are coming. But then when you look at the cuts that they're doing, the cuts to education, the cuts to certain programs, the cuts to prison, um, what other stuff? They were talking about cuts to all this stuff, right? But the thing they're not addressing, that they never address, is the simple stuff, right? The common sense stuff. Because we've had, for example, this high speed rail that's been around for shit, at least 10 to 15 years, right? Of this high speed rail project. And that the high speed rail project was supposed to be built, and oh man, they have this budget for it. Oh man, it was great. So the concept was supposed to be going from San Francisco to LA. All right, San Francisco to LA in short time. That was the original concept. Then, of course, what gets in the way? The environmental studies and reviews, right? So you can't go a straight line down because it damages this, it kills that, it does this to the environment. So they had to do a reroute it, right? From instead of going straight down, they had to reroute it through the Central Valley and then Central Valley back into Southern California to reconnect to LA, right? So they approved that because, going through the Central Valley, there's lots of open land. Ideally, if you wanted to do it the right way, you would just run it straight along I-5. But hey, what do I know, right? You know what? Let me see here. Let me pull up right here for you. I'll pull up a map of California. So let me see if I could do that. I don't know if it'll show me the map of the freeways system here. Alright, maybe it will. Alright, cool. So when you look at the map, alright, this is California at large, right? San Francisco to LA, boom, right? You're supposed to just kind of build it along the way, but as straight as possible, right? But again, you have a lot of urban cities built along the way, urban sprawl, I guess you could say. So it's going to be hard to make track, but it's not impossible, right? So you have that. And then, of course, environmental stuff, you're going to kill this, you're going to destroy this, if you're going to do that. So they said, all right. So they're going to reroute it. So they basically, for example, you start from San Francisco, and as it goes down, I think through the Bay Area, the cutoff is, I think, somewhere around here, and then it goes. I'm sorry. Let me pull it back up. So San Francisco, it goes through and across to the other side. I think they were going to use 580, so they're going to cross through 580 to I-5. Then I-5, in theory, would be the best way to just go because it's a straight line down to Southern California. Like every time I go to Southern California, to LA, I take I-5. That's the most common route. Boom, I-5. Boom, straight to LA. But they got this weird shit going on where they diverted it even more, right? It was like from San Francisco, they got it going further east, right? And into Fresno, Bakersfield, Fresno, and all this stuff, right? And then into LA, right? So, for example, right now, they've done a lot of work along this area of between Merced and Fresno, of like clearing land, building the infrastructure, and they've done the most progress here in this area of California, which is like way offline from San Francisco to LA. And guess what? One, they're way over budget, and two, besides being way over budget, where they've had the federal government ask for kick in money, California's still feeding money into it, and on top of that, the cherry on this is that they have not laid one single track yet. It's just funny as hell. So when you look at that, it's like, man. So they've done all this work between Fresno, I think, to Merced, right, which is way out in the boonies from San Francisco and LA. All right, so how do you take the original concept of straight line, straight shot, to let's go all the way out here and into Fresno, and then into here, and then boom, right? It's not going to work. All right, they're feeding money into oblivion with not even all these years not laying a single track, and still going to feed money to this. And then you're wondering why we over budget and we need a cut. How about cutting funding to this stupid piece of shit high-speed rail? All right, till you figure out a better way to go about things, and write it off as a loss, move on. Stop budgeting that, right? But no, you want to cut programs, and you want to cut prison, you want to cut, stuff that people need, all right? And people don't need this stupid piece of shit high-speed rail that is really doing nothing for nobody, because how's that going to be high speed if you're going to divert it all the way into the Central Valley and then back into LA? That's not going to be any faster. I might as well just drive. I'll take my I-5 route straight shot down, instead of going, boom, 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 all east of I-5. By the way, this other highway east of I-5 that they seem to be running along is Highway 99, and that is a smaller freeway. That's not even an interstate. That's a highway, right? It's a heavily used highway to go from Northern California to Southern California as well. Probably second heavily used. Probably third heavily used. I-5 is the most heavily. There's a 101 that's heavily used, and then there's a 99. All right, so three of the most heavily used highways, or freeways, or whatever you want to call it. But in the end, just cut the damn shit, So you have that. All right, and then on top of that, let's see here, homeless spending. It was revealed that they spent all this money on homeless, billions, $20 billion, right? And they can't account for anything. No one's tracking it. No one's accounting it. And guess what? The homeless problem has still continued to increase and explode, right? They say that in the United States, California has a third of the homeless, a third or half, somewhere around there, of all the homeless, all right, is in California, if you put United States as a whole. And so when you look at that, and you said 20 billion in spending into that, damn, that's a big gash in the budget. So you're telling me that you can't cut that? Fuck, just cut the shit out of that, and cut that. So you got high-speed rail, you have homeless. All right, common sense says that this is money lost, money that is worth not spending anymore. Cut that shit, right? And man, imagine how much better it would be just to cut those two alone. But even better proposal, right? There's number 3. Top 3 things you need to cut, all right? If you want to make a better budget in California, how about cutting illegal immigrant in terms of funding their stuff, right? The free health care, the free this, the free that, free homes, free this, assistance. How about not giving them anything? Man, if we close the borders and not give them anything, man, how much money that would be saved, in the billions as well. Whoa, shit, that's common sense. But no, California politics is so blue and so dummy driven that anybody can see how bad that they work money and budgets and all that. And the thing about Democrats and blue politics is that they continue to print money and throw money at everything, and it's proven that it doesn't do a thing, that you actually have to take action, right? Take action as in for example, if there's no money to be spent on a program, well, then you don't fund it with printed money or some money that you think you're going to pull out of somewhere. You just stop it. Stop the funding of that program. All right? You're not going to be able to fund all these social programs. All right? So cut those things. Sorry about your luck. But a lot of it is driven towards the homeless programs of nowhere. A lot of it's going to illegal immigrants to nowhere. And when you look at cutting those social programs, man, how much of a difference that makes. And guess what? They're talking about how they delayed EBT for illegal immigrants till 2027. So it's in the plan to give them EBT cards. It's like, what the fuck, you know? So don't bust me over with that shit, all right? That you're gonna, you're trying to fund all this money, wasted money to all these things, but we have big problems, right? And the problem is that we need to cut some stuff. And sorry, they never belonged here. Close the border. Stop funding them. All right, stop giving them stuff. And how much money that would save already? If you stop doing the high speed stuff, how much money that would save, right? We got, there's other stuff important to spend that money on. Man, if you want to support railway, whatever work that you're trying to do in the first place, and you're moving all this land and building pavement, how about just re-supporting and rebuilding pavement and restructuring the highways and freeways that we have here, because that's what's really needed. They're so heavily used. That's what's really needed. All right, and that's that. And I mean, man, so much problem to be solved so easily. All right, so it's just stuff like that. All right, and that's why California's a mess, and that's why people leave California, because when people leave California, California has no money when people leave, because that's loss of tax base. Well, when businesses leave California, that's a loss of tax base money as well. So that's a recipe for disaster, because it makes everybody else have to, pay for the lost people and lost business. Because if they're all leaving, but they're not cutting the spending, and they're doing deficit spending, that's not helping us. That's just hurting us even more. So just saying, think about it. All right, but it's common sense. But you guys are morons in that. If you are blue and you're trying to go along with the narrative that everything's good and blue, 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 then hey, that's on you. All right. But I just wanted to share my thoughts on that. All right, that this whole California stuff. Just it's funny how it can easily be better if you just do the easy things, right? The easy right things. But again, common sense ain't so common, and so that's why we're at where we're at. Hey, nothing we can do about it except, the only thing you can do is really vote. But in California, you guys are a bunch of morons. You still vote blue anyways. Doesn't matter. All right, vote blue no matter who, and guess what? You're screwed. Right? So, just saying. But that's my latest rant here, common sense perspective. Other than that, we'll see you in the next one.